Hey, what's up guys? It's Chuck from Brady Adventures, and today I'm going to put the Slee auxiliary battery tray down here into the Land Cruiser. Hey guys, before we get started, I just want to let you know that the dual battery install is going great. We considered doing a PC1400 battery in the auxiliary tray. We asked Slee about it. They weren't sure if it was going to fit. Wanted to give a special thanks to the guys at I Hate Mud for doing so much to help us try and figure out if that PC1400 was going to fit or not. It was awesome. They took lots of pictures, gave me a lot of feedback along the way. And now that I've done the install, I think that it probably would fit. However, we erred on the side of caution and went with the PC1230. We could not have done a lot of the things that we're doing to the Land Cruiser without the guys at I Hate Mud. So thanks, and enjoy the installation. For this job, no, not yet. This job, I needed a shop light, a couple screwdrivers, just a couple open-ended wrenches. I got a 13 and a 10 here. Ratchets, definitely need a long extension to get down to the bolts holding the bracket in, especially in the back. Sorted, standard and metric socket. I needed a 1/2 inch, 12, 13 millimeter, 10 millimeter. You do need to drill one hole. I use this bit, and then I use this tool to widen it out. You're gonna need a drill, a utility knife to trim some plastic off of the reservoir. I ended up using the chisel, worked a little bit better, it's a little bit safer. I also used some spray paint to paint over the bare metal where I drilled the hole. I'm gonna have to bend back this bracket, unhook this wire. The power steering reservoir bracket comes out and actually gets mounted on a piece of the auxiliary bracket. You have to remove the air hose and take off the air box. On some vehicles you have a resistor that's right here called the DRL resistor, and you have to relocate that onto the bracket. We're not going to have to do that since we don't have one. I'm only going to get the tray in today because the boot that I decided to use, I thought I had one that was going to work. I'm going to drill a hole in the firewall, but the boot that I wanted to use isn't big enough, so I ordered one. Gently bending this down. I'm just doing it with my hand, and hopefully it's going to be good enough. Alright. Okay, now I am going to take this reservoir off. So I'm just going to gently pry up this. Alright, so I just pried up this tab a little bit and just kind of wiggled it. Definitely want to inspect your hoses back here and make sure they're in good shape. Oh, and then that just really easily comes up. I just put a little strap on that to hold it up out of the way. Now I'm gonna take this bracket out, and then I'm gonna move to the air box. Okay, these guys are attached with 12 millimeter bolts. So now that I have this power steering bracket out, looks like the front leg of the auxiliary tray is gonna mount right here on the original one of the holes for the power steering bracket, and the other one is gonna be a hole that's gonna go right through here that I have to drill. I'm thinking you could probably get away without taking the air box off, but it's really only 3 bolts in this plug, so we're gonna go ahead and do that per the instructions. The airbox has 3 bolts, one here, one in the front, and one over on the side of the engine. As you can see, taking that airbox out really opens up the workspace. It's definitely worth doing, just a few nuts, no big deal. Careful too, I touched this is the mass airflow sensor. There's a little strap here. That just broke right off. Very brittle, and of course this is the one I need to move, and that one seems fine. I'm gonna try not to go from underneath just because there's a rust coating down there. These little plastic panel tools are definitely a great thing to have. Got that out of there. That's just gonna end up getting tucked right down in there underneath the bracket. So you can see this bracket looks a lot like what holds the power steering reservoir in the vehicle, and we're going to mount this on here. So this bracket off the side is where that's going to mount. Bolt and nut that attach this are 10 millimeters, so I got a 10 millimeter socket, an open end wrench, and as usual I'm going to put a little thread locker on there. Alright, so now we are going to install nuts back here. put this spacer right here. Try to sit this right down on top of that spacer. So that everything's fitting nice. Kind of making sure all these wires and stuff are not getting pinched. And these nuts are 1/2 inch. Alright, so here are those 2 nuts. Now I'm just gonna leave those loose for the moment. This nut, it's really just the spacer and the nut back in on over here. Now on this side, this is going to use the factory location with this short nut here. If you were actually putting on a compressor back here, the nuts you would use here would be the compressor mount nut instead of this one. On this side, you actually have to drill a hole. I'm going to get this all snugged down so this hole is perfect. I'm going to go ahead and put this one on and then measure that hole. Okay, it looks like this guy is actually probably going to sit at a little bit of an angle. Okay. Almost lost my spacer. Yeah, right. So I got it started, widen it out a little bit to 3/8. Alright guys, so now I'm going to tape this off and paint that. I always paint the bare metal like that. The tray is in. Seems really, really sturdy. All I got left to do is move the reservoir over to here and drop the battery in. We're gonna be good to go. Let's see, right on here, this little bit of plastic, you gotta cut that off. I feel like this is gonna be a pain in the butt. All right, so maybe a chisel will work a little better. Try not to cut my hand. Power steering hose, it kind of turned on the pump down there, which made it a little less of an issue. So you can actually turn the hoses a little bit and it sits right there nicely. The biggest problem was this wasn't really clipping in and I had to like push it down and then really bend this tab in. So I'm a tiny bit worried about that either breaking off or popping out and then the power steering fluid reservoir coming off. Keep an eye on that. I'm gonna get something else and just kind of bend it the rest of the way in right there real quick. Alright, here you go. So you can see the mount. So I've got room up here to mount my blue C switch, and I have to figure out exactly how I'm going to do that. And I'm waiting on this boot, so my boot into the firewall is going to go right around here. The J bolts go here and here. Alright, here's the battery. I got the battery in here. It clears everything on this side. It is very tight right here. Now in the Slee instructions they show you, hey, you could reposition this over here, is I think what they're trying to do. I think I'm okay with it. It's definitely really close, but there's nothing sharp over here, so I'm not too worried about it. So okay, there you have it. She's in. Just barely clears over here. Actually have quite a bit of room moving back, but this wire boot here is kind of pressed up pretty tight. And you can relocate that to kind of get it more like this. I may just try to open this up and see if I can sort of slide it in the bracket here a little bit further. But I'm not too worried about that. Nothing sharp there. Other than that, and it's pushed right up against there. So that's the Odyssey 7586 PC 1230, and everything's pretty sturdy. The next little project I have is to, I'll have to take this back out, drill the hole into the firewall, figure out exactly how I'm gonna mount my switch to this, which I intend to mount right up here. There you go, looks pretty good. So now we've got both batteries mounted in the truck. Still have to wire up the dual battery and the relay and get the wires back into the back of the vehicle. In the end, this is a pretty easy job. If you go real slow, it's gonna take you a few hours, but really this shouldn't take you more than an hour and a half or so, and maybe a little bit longer if you do paint the hole like I did and let that dry. But all in all, not too bad of a job just to get the tray and the battery in. Thanks a lot. If you like what you saw, give me a thumbs up. Send me any comments or questions you might have. And be sure to check out our other videos on our dual battery setup.
If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel. And always feel free to leave us any comments or questions that you might have.